Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is the Not So Serious Keto video podcast, I think number 103. I'll probably have to check that. If it isn't, I will write down here what it really is, but I think it's 103. This week, I hope things sort of start to normalize a little bit on the channel, but then again, it probably won't. I always sort of hope for that, but that's life. I mean, life just throws you curveballs. And Perfect Keto tends to throw me curveballs by introducing products. And, well, you never know what's going to happen. But my hope is that we start getting into a little bit more of the cadence that you were used to back sort of pre-holidays on this channel. One of the things, though, that is going to change a little bit on Mondays is I won't be doing the podcast in this format, at least, every single Monday. I'll still be doing something on Mondays, but probably what you'll get is the just Steve talking for 17 to 23 minutes version like this, probably twice a month. And then I'm thinking once a month, I'll do some sort of an interview with somebody else in the keto world or YouTube world or both, I guess. And then the other week, I guess that would be the one remaining Monday, that will probably be where I release Pragmatic Keto. So I've talked before about Pragmatic Keto and how perhaps maybe I should have named this channel Pragmatic Keto, but I've decided instead that it's going to be just a series that I do, a series of videos where I respond to common questions or concerns or complaints, either related to keto or the keto lifestyle or my videos in general. It gives me a chance to address them. And the first episode is really describing the difference between pragmatic keto and dogmatic keto. And despite my best attempts to record this in a way that isn't going to get anybody worked up, I think it'll probably still get some people worked up. The difference between that sort of video and this, the video podcast, is twofold. One, it's going to be more or less a single topic sort of episode. It'll also be shorter. I suspect each episode is probably going to be 10 minutes or less. And I will also be incorporating stock footage. There'll be a lot more eye candy that goes on. Just because I found that when you're talking about concepts, I'll just throw out some names, whether it's a Dr. Eric Berg video or a Thomas DeLauer video or any number of these YouTube doctors, I find that if it's just them sitting and talking, like I'm doing right now, it does get to be, I think, a little bit boring. But when you have images flash up or video flash up that shows, blood going through some arteries or somebody eating a salad, or better yet, a steak, or bacon and steak, you see something like that and it just sort of keeps you going. We're sort of in this short attention span theater now, and the more stuff that you can do to stimulate people, the better. Keep them watching. Anyhow, Pragmatic Keto, like I said, probably once a month, unless I really feel that there's an urgency, a necessity to do a second episode around some sort of a concern, then twice a month. But I won't probably have it be twice on Mondays. So it would be once on a Monday and then later in the month on a Thursday or something like that. I want to get back to probably 4 videos a week. I've gotten lately into this 5 video a week thing, and I need a day to kind of catch my breath, honestly. And that used to be Thursdays, and it was such a relief on Thursdays. It wasn't a relief to see my views go down. That was sort of a bummer, but to have less activity in the comments, that felt good. To be able to say, oh, hey, I don't have to be out into the comment section on an hourly basis answering questions or policing bad behavior, things like that. Which is not to say I don't enjoy comments. I do. I love comments. I love the community that we have here in Serious Keto, and I love being able to respond to you, whether that's just giving you a heart to acknowledge that I read your comment, or whatever I do, any sort of a reply that I can come up with quickly. I love that stuff. So please, please, please don't think that I don't love comments. Don't let this dissuade you from leaving comments. But Pragmatic Keto, back to Pragmatic Keto, the first episode is really describing dogmatism versus pragmatism. and why I believe that a pragmatic approach to keto is the best. Now, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't eat clean keto or that I'm opposed to clean keto or any of that. What it is I'm saying do the keto that works for you. Anyhow, I don't want to give away a bunch of the content and just wind up rehashing that in the video. So that's the first episode. Some of the other episodes that I'll be talking about are like keto price, because I get a lot of comments about the cost of keto, whether that's just plain living keto and buying the animal products that we eat, or the cost of prepackaged stuff. I will do an episode probably purely on keto companies and keto labeled products and my thoughts on them, my thoughts on the price, my thoughts on the companies themselves, and my thoughts on the future of all of that. I'll do episodes probably on things like blood testing as well, why I do it, why I only do it on certain videos. Do I do it all the time and I just don't tell you about it? That sort of stuff. But I've got a list of various questions and comments and sometimes complaints that I get from people, and I feel that the best way to respond to these, rather than typing, is to give a thoughtful, pragmatic video. So, I know I discussed this last week, but this is what the schedule is going to start being like on Mondays. You're still going to get me on Mondays, but it's going to be a little bit more variety in the content. Now, in terms of doing interviews, I've been playing around a lot with some streaming software and some recording software, because the prior interview videos that I did, both with Dennis from Black Tie Kitchen and Chef Scott from Modernist Pantry, we were using Zoom. And Zoom is not a great tool when it comes to recording stuff. You get differences in video quality between, whose video you're looking at or who the host is. You get issues with audio quality and audio sync. This was a big problem that we've had in both of those 2 interview videos that I did. Well, actually, it wound up being like 6 interview videos, even though I think we only had 2 instances where we recorded them. But a lot of time spent syncing up the audio. So I'm moving to a different software. It's called Restream, and I'll probably test that out again with Dennis from Black Tie Kitchen, hopefully this week, and then that will be one of the first interview videos that we do, because the previous one was not so much interview, I think, as sort of just co-podcast. I think it would be great to find out more about Dennis and how he comes up with his ideas and puts his videos together, how he wound up going keto, etc. That will probably be the first one. And then I've got a number of different people that I think would be very receptive to doing these interview or co-podcast videos with me. If there's someone that you would really like me to see, or that you would really like to see me interview, let me know down in the comments below. I can't make any promises, and certainly there are a lot of people I'd love to interview that I think are just probably too big, that, I don't know that they'd necessarily make the time for a, small-time guy like me. I mean, I would love to interview Dr. Jason Fung. I think that would be really great. I love that guy. And I think he also tends to have a pretty pragmatic attitude towards low carb as well. But I think it would be really fun to talk to him, especially to get his insight into the medical community around low carb and some of the battles that I'm sure he fights on a regular basis. But anyhow, if there are specific YouTubers that you would love to see me interview, let me know down in the description below. Like I said, no promises, but I'll see what I can do. For the final segment of the podcast, 2 things I want to quickly cover. Well, one thing will be quick, the other one we'll see. Sometimes I get a little long-winded. But the first is we are rapidly approaching 200,000 subscribers on this channel, which I consider sort of a milestone. And I think I'm probably gonna have to do a giveaway. So once we hit 200,000, I will do a video announcing that we've hit 200,000, and I'll do another, kind of like I did at the end of last year, where I did a huge giveaway of stuff from my own personal supply. So these will be products that I've purchased or products that have been sent to me from other keto manufacturers, things that I use and that I like that I want to share with you. There may also be 1 or 2 things that I'm not going to use just because I didn't like, but maybe you will. It's free. So anyhow, keep your eyes peeled for that. I think based on where we are right now, this could happen maybe the first week of April. So stay tuned for that. The final segment is sort of two events in one, but it happened at one place, at a single restaurant in, was it Richland, some small village in Wisconsin, where we went to dinner. Now, I quit drinking back on January 1st, and if you drink, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not preachy. It was a decision that I made for myself and for my health, and I quit drinking. This makes for some awkward situations when you're dealing with your standard Wisconsin restaurant scenario. So my mother-in-law wanted to take me, actually I should save me for last. So my wife Terry, my brother-in-law Jeff, my niece Allie wanted to take us to this restaurant in whatever the city was called, Richland, I think, because they, back when Carl, my father-in-law, was still alive, that whole family would go up, I think, to Fond du Lac or something like that in Wisconsin, and would go fishing or boating or something. And as they would come back, Carl, his big thing was he always wanted to stop for a shot and a beer. That's his drink, shot and a beer. And this was, I guess, about halfway back home for them. So they would stop at this place, and we were going to go there sort of quasi for my birthday, but, you know, also just in memory of Carl. And it seems, at least from my perspective, what I've witnessed in terms of dining in Wisconsin, especially if you're, you know, older, it was you show up and you go to the bar first at the restaurant for like an hour and have drinks and maybe appetizers. So that's what we did. Our reservation was at 5:15. We showed up there, I think, at 4:10. So this used to be, you know, back when first pre-keto and when I was drinking, that was cool with me. I was just going to hit appetizers, you know, fried cheese curds and whatever else that had, you know, batter on it I would eat, and, you know, put down a handful of beers over the course of an hour, and then we'd go to eat. But now, well, first, going keto really starts to restrict you in terms of the menu. And this place, I don't think there was a single thing on the list of appetizers that fell into my category of being able to eat. It's possible that the Brussels sprouts, they had Brussels sprouts, that might have been keto, but I think they probably put some honey or brown sugar or something on it, which doesn't matter because I'm not eating Brussels sprouts regardless. So over the last 3 years, I've kind of had to deal with that from my in-laws, that they're not really understanding what keto is and why I'm doing it. And, oh, are you sure you can't eat this? Oh, just have one, that sort of thing. But then to add to that, not drinking and just sitting there having a club soda with lime, it really felt awkward to me. I felt very out of my element. I'm not a go out in public sort of person a whole lot. And the alcohol made that a lot easier for me. It was my social lubricant, which I didn't then have. So we're sitting at the bar. Basically, I'm not doing the things that everybody else is doing, which is eating batter fried food and drinking beer or wine or mixed drinks. That went on for an hour. Then we went to our table, and it was the worst service in a long time that I've had. I mean, we got to the table, and the waitress brought us some water and took our orders, never asked us about drinks or anything, which is okay for me because I wasn't drinking anything. And then we didn't see her again for 45 minutes. Nothing. No update. No, does anybody need a refresher on their drinks? Nothing. It was just pretty much the whole experience. It was horrible service, a lot of wait time, and if I had been drinking, I think I would have handled it very poorly. Because I used to be the sort of person that I would tell the waitress, once you see about this much left in my pint of beer, I want to see a new beer on the table. And I wouldn't have been in that situation, and I would have been probably pretty angry about it. In fact, I probably would have just been angry about the wait time, but I have become so mellow and just, you can't really get me worked up or bothered about anything anymore since I quit drinking. It is such a weird and unusual situation for me after 35 years of drinking to just be really mellow. And that's what I am. So it was a very mellow dinner. It wound up being one of those things that though it wasn't an enjoyable time for me, I felt that I handled spectacularly because I wasn't drinking. Still, I couldn't wait for it to end. I'm like, this has just been one of the suckier experiences that I've had out at a restaurant. I want to go home and just chill at home. And as we're walking out and I'm feeling this great sense of relief that we're done, thank goodness we're done here, a woman says, "Steve." And I turn because I don't expect this to ever happen. This woman was sitting there with her son and said, "I love your videos." And this made my night. I believe her name was Jody. I hope her name was Jody. If it wasn't Jody, I'm sorry, Jody, person. This is something I got to get better at. I've always been bad at names, but I need to start getting better at that if people are going to take the time to say hi to me out in public. But Jody or Jody person, you made my night. That was the coolest thing. And to then have my in-laws see it, because like I said, not only do they not really understand what I'm doing with keto, I don't think they understand what I'm doing with my life and what Serious Keto, the channel, is all about. So when they witnessed this, their jaws just hit the floor. They're like, we walk out of the restaurant afterwards and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that was so cool. You're like a celebrity." And I'm like, well, it was cool. I wouldn't call myself a celebrity though. Anyhow, so I don't know where I'm going with this story other than the fact that now that I think about it, the last 3 times that I've gone out in public, and I don't want to, it's not like I'm Howard Hughes or some, recluse or something like that stays in. It's just conveniently I stay in an awful lot, especially during the winter. But both of my last 2 trips to Costco, I've been recognized. And then now I go to a restaurant for the first time in probably 6 months or more, and I get recognized. I don't think I'm ever going to get used to it. It's very cool. So if you ever do see me out in public, don't hesitate to say, "Hi, Steve." And if I seem rather flabbergasted or nervous, it's not you. It's just I'm still sort of overwhelmed with it all, and I do think it's incredibly cool. Odds are I'm going to be more excited about meeting you than you are about meeting me. So hopefully that continues. It's a lot of fun. And maybe at some point I'll go to one of these keto or low carb conventions. We'll see. We'll see. But that's going to be it for this podcast. As always, thank you for watching or listening.